Hi everyone, welcome to the weekly update video for the 19th of December. This week we're going to be covering firstly the results of the TFM fall survey, and then we're also going to cover the new TFM preview that was released and the PMDG control stand panel, and some MSFS performance discussion as well. So let's get started with the fall survey. Some of these questions were unrelated, so I'll just go one by one. And note, you can look at the full results of the survey as well as, of course, all the keyboard commands for panels like the control stand on the TFM blog. I'm not going to go through every keyboard command or every stat from the survey here. You'll just forget them and it won't be particularly useful, so you may as well just go look at them on the blog. This is more of a summary. So there was interest expressed in a TFM mobile app, with preferences expressed for iOS and watchOS for that platform. People identified PMDG panels, flight status, and the PMDG FMC as items they would like to see within that app. Definitely something on the table for the future, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, I'm talking about the long future there, not soonish. Support for the PMDG 747 should be the focus after the 737 is completed. Well, that's already the order that things were going in anyway, so that's good. There is significant support for including first officer features in the 737, 747 and 777. So first officer style flows and checklists, and automatic support for the pilot from a virtual co-pilot. Again, something more for the long future more than the immediate future. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that people are looking at, and given that first officer Pro or Next is something that is really developed outside of our control, I think there is support for bringing that into our control as a community when we can, and then we can sort of tailor it for our needs. And accessibility, of course, will be a given. On to VATSIM data. So this is a link to the VATSIM data feature that TFM has, although it doesn't currently work, so I'd recommend just disabling it. But there was some talk here about what people wanted to see and what order they wanted to see it in. Essentially, they wanted to see the ATIS, including weather and runway usage patterns, which will be on the ATIS, frequencies and call signs and things like that. There was preferences expressed in terms of documentation for text files, keyboard helpers within TFM, and YouTube videos, and there was a preference expressed for verbose documentation, although that particular expression of interest was pretty close between verbose and brief documentation. I think what that shows is that there is no real unanimous opinion on documentation. If you look at the stats, they were relatively varied between videos, between textual, between podcasts, between keyboard helper within TFM. So I think people want various different ways, and you've got to remember they're all going to help in different scenarios, because everybody has different user cases. Some people like reading large textual documents because they can keep them for reference. Other people are able to watch a YouTube video and take in all that information. Other people need the keyboard helper just to check keyboard commands and specific things on the fly. So I think they all work pretty well together. And so you can't really just have one and say, okay, this is how all documentation is going to be. Some things are better demoed on a YouTube video in action, for example. So yeah, I think I'm not too surprised about that. The next focus for the database feature should be the flight tracking feature. That was pretty overwhelming. And the respondents also identified a need for improvements in the speed and usability of the PMDG 737 FMC. There were a sample of the comments that were received on the FMC discussion, and I'm not going to go through them individually and sort of say what I think about them. All I will say is that what you have to remember is that TFM displays the FMC as the airplane presents it. So in terms of the layout, left and right soft keys, things like that, there's not going to be much change, because this is how the airplane does things, and you just have to learn that. There is going to be some change and some updates to the FMC made. So there were some legitimate things brought up. One of them being that the cursor sometimes jumps around. The points about the FMC being slow, I'm not too sure about that. I'm pretty sure it just follows the kind of speed of the airplane. I mean, remember the speed of the PMDG FMC is meant to simulate the real thing, and they are operating on relatively old technology, to be honest with you. So they're not supposed to be, the world's greatest computer, supercomputer, amazingly fast. This is a simulator, and it's simulated how it is. The cursor jumping around is certainly something. Some of the people reporting scratch pad issues and typing issues, and things are not clearing correctly sometimes. They're all kind of legitimate things, and I know Andy and Jason are looking at doing a bit of a rewrite of the FMC anyway. So I think most of those will be addressed, and the ones that aren't will just be things that are features of the PMDG rather than bugs of TFM. Right, let's go on to the control stand then. So the control stand does include, and this is another new panel you can find within TFM if you get the latest preview, which was released just last week. Includes keyboard commands for the elements of the trim system, the pedestal. You can do things like floodlighting on the pedestal. The fire protection panel, so the handles, extinguisher handles, and also fire tests. You've got cargo fire protection. You've got some new controls for the transponder, including the transponder source. Yeah, it should be a nice, useful panel. Another bunch of tests added that you can do. There are a couple more tests to be added, which it's been said that they're going to be added into a new panel, the tests panel, essentially. If they, aren't located on a specific panel, they'll just make a new one where any further items that you can test, which is of course something you do during the pre-flight, and testing systems, testing warnings, things like that, will just be thrown onto the other test panel, i.e. GPWS test is another one that we're currently looking for. But yeah, really great on the control stand. There is talk here about MSFS and GPU overload using the TFM database because of the database's size possibly rising to 2 gigabytes with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and people having issues with OBS and MSFS. My personal experiences have been that TFM has caused, and this is the old preview version before the new release, some stuttering with other applications such as VATSIM vPilot. And I know for other people with slightly lesser specs, it's caused stuttering on things like NVDA and the simulator sound itself. With the latest preview, that all seems to be fixed. My VATSIM is not stuttering anymore, and performance does seem greatly improved. The one thing that I will caution people about the latest preview is there is investigation of a bug surrounding ILS and readings on approach. Some users, myself included, have had some approaches where it's reading the glide slope if you have the altitude readings rather than the percentage readings. It's reading the glide slope altitude as being way off, something like 60,000 feet above or whatever, which is obviously incorrect. The plane couldn't even climb that high. So that is a possibility. You may not have that bug. It seems inconsistent, and we're still searching for the cause. Whether it's system specific, that some people have some setting on and some people don't, or whether it's an actual bug in TFM itself, we're not sure. We're still trying to figure it out. But be aware of that, and if you get those readings, then your best shot is probably just to continue trying to use the altitudes in your FMC to capture the glide slope, and often you will catch it just fine. Just ignore the readings. Yeah, if you have any input on that, or you've had that happen to you at a certain airport or whatever, then feel free to add to the thread on GitHub, because we're still trying to figure out exactly what's causing that. But yes, the performance seems to be much better in the preview. The slash key is also fixed. There was a problem for whatever reason where the PMDG73FMC wasn't allowing you to enter a slash command. So for example, if you were trying to enter a new speed along with an altitude, whether that be in the legs page or in the descent page or something like that. You're typing, for example, on the descent page, you can type a max speed / an airspeed for your Mac, and then your transition to airspeed. So you could type, decimal 8 / 280. You couldn't do that previously. For some reason, the scratch pad wasn't taking the slash, but now it is. So that is also fixed. That's really going to be it. I don't have anything else particular to say other than to remind people that the new WhatsApp communities feature is also now available. And I've put this on the bvipilots.net website. So if you go to the contact us page, as well as the form where you can send an actual email to BVI Pilots, you can also join the WhatsApp community. The way this works is you have a main root group for the whole community, which allows for specific announcements to be made. So TFM related announcements, event related announcements, anything like that that's important for everyone to see. So people can just see the announcements in that group, but then they can also apply to join any of the other groups that we have, i.e. The BVI Virtual Airline group, the main BVI Pilots group, for more advanced discussion, or the beginners Q&A group, which is generally where you'll land if you have no simming experience. Just drop you in beginners Q&A, and then you can get help from some experienced simmers who are giving up their time in there. So it's very useful. It allows people to pick and choose what they want to see. It avoids spam and allows people to get to announcements quicker. So you can join that even if you're interested in simming and you have questions. Then the beginners Q&A group is probably a great place to get started. And the good thing is it's very active. I can tell you that. It's always been the case, for whatever reason, that this community just always goes back to WhatsApp and that kind of interaction. And I've been really pleased to see how the community's worked out on the new WhatsApp feature, and to see old simmers returning that haven't done this for years, and new people coming in who are transitioning from Euroflight to this P3D or FS 2020, or even just starting out completely from scratch. Yeah, it's been really nice to see. And the more people we have in there, the better, provided you're you're going to be sensible and you want to learn simming. Well, there's definitely enough people who know what they're doing to help you out in there. And as usual, you can of course also just contact me through bvipilots.net and the other moderators, Rob, as well. And you can contact the channel through blindflightsimmer44@gmail.com. And enjoy your continued flights and have a good week. And I will see you, if not next week, then perhaps the week after. We will see if a weekly update video is necessary. I should add, I don't always do a weekly update video. There's the odd time where nothing has happened, like there's nothing for me to say, maybe like a 1 or 2 minute video, so I just don't bother. So if you don't see one, that's probably why, or something's come up. But generally, yeah, I don't do it if perhaps there's not been a TFM blog post, or there's not been any particular updates. Then we just don't do it. So but sorry, yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you in the next video.